Hello, this is Yo-Yo. So today we're going to talk about linear equation. So here's an example. If you earn 13,000 per year and you spend 29,000 per year, write an equation you save after 8 years if you start with nothing. So here is the question. So let's have a table and see can we find some pattern about how you're saving money as the time goes by. So here's the year and here's the account in your bank. The balance, let's say this is the balance in your account. So you start with nothing, so that means the first year you have nothing there. And then after first year, how much do you have? Well, you earn 13,000 per year, and then you spend 29,000 per year. So that means you save 1,000 after first year. And then second year, on the second year, you still save another 1,000, right? So that means after 2 years, your total balance in your bank account should be 2,000, right? Okay. So after 3 years, you open your bank account, you have what? 3Ks, and go on and go on. So after 8 years, how many thousand do you have? You have n times 1,000 because each year you save 1,000. So here is the pattern. So how can I write the equation about that? So the balance of your account should equals to n times 1,000 or 1,000 n if you're starting with nothing. So here's the equation. So equation like that, we call it linear equation. They are in the form of y equals to mx plus b, where m is the slope, b is the y-intercept, or where you started. Since we started with nothing, so that means our y-intercept, our starting point is going to be 0. So that's why we add 0 in here. That means nothing. Okay, so this is the basic form, the slope-intercept form of linear equation. So there's one thing that's very important when it comes to linear equation is the average rate of change, what we learned in the last video. The average rate of change is a constant. That means it's not going to change. Okay, so how do we find average rate of change? Remember that is the changing, delta means changing output over the changing input, right? So the changing output would be FA minus FB over A minus B. Usually, I think you were more familiar with m equals to y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. This is how you write it when you're in high school. But since now we're in college level, so try to get used to our function notation, which is fx1 minus fx2 over x1 minus x2. Okay, so what does the graph look like when it comes to linear equation? So the graph is going to be a straight line. Look like this one. This is what a linear equation, the graph look like. And this one, this dot is called y-intercept. And this one is going to be x-intercept. So for all the linear equation, it will have at least one, actually just one, y-intercept and x-intercept. So sometimes x-intercept and y-intercept would be the same. So what does the graph look like if y-intercept and x-intercept are the same? So the graph is going to cross the origin. So here is the origin. So this is our x-intercept, also y-intercept, right? Okay. So now let's get back to the graph. Now when we look at the graph, we know that from the left to the right, what does the graph look like? From the left to the right, what does the graph look like? So the graph is increasing, right? So if the graph is increasing, we call the graph look like this is increasing. We talked about that in graphical behavior. So the slope m is going to be greater than 0. If the graph look like this, we call this is what? Decreasing. Remember, from the left to the right, it decreases. So in this case, the slope is less than 0. That means it's going to be a negative. Okay, so in this chapter, the most important thing we want to learn is how do you find the linear equation if they give you a graph or table or an application problem. So let's start with a graph. Okay, so now let's look at the graph. We have a graph here. So how do we find, giving you a graph, how do you find the linear equation? Well, first of all, you need to find 2 points. So here I already identified 2 points that most obvious for me. I have 15 and 5. The second point is -10 and -10. Of course, you can use any other points. So the first step is I need to find the slope, m, which is equals to the changing in the y over the changing in x, right? The changing output over the changing input. So now let's look at here. So if this is S1, so this is going to be fx1. If this is x2, the second -10 will be the fx2. So we substitute into our equation. We have 5 minus, don't skip the steps. Let's consider this review because I believe that you already do lots of slope exercise before. So f of x1 minus f of x2 over x1 minus x2. So f of x1 equals to 5 minus f of x2, -10. You are subtracting -10. So don't forget the negative sign is very important. And then x1 equals to 15 minus another -10. Because I know that lots of time you know the concept by my previous experience, you know the concept, but somehow you forgot the negative sign. That will totally lead to a totally different slope. Okay, so here I have 5 minus -10, which is 15, and then 15 minus 10, 25. Again, simplify, I have a 2 over 5. So the slope is going to be 2 over 5. After we find the slope, we still need to find intercept. Okay, maybe this intercept look like -5. I would say, okay, so this has to be -5. We don't know yet. So the best way to do it is we check it instead of just eyeballing to see, okay, this is -5. No, this is not the right way to do it. Always check it by plugging a number. So you can plug in any number that you like. You can do 15, 5, or you can plus this point, -10, -10. In this case, because I know that if we involve with negative sign, sometimes it's easy to have a problem because the negative sign. So I may just use 2 positive signs. Plug it in. Y equals to 5, m equals to 2/5, x equals to 15 plus b. And now let's solve for b. So this is equal to 3. Yes. And we have 2 times 3 equals to 5. I'm sorry, 2 times 3 equals to 6. Oh, I did this wrong. I don't know, did you catch my mistake or not? I did this wrong. So this should be not 2/5, should be, you divide by 5 on both sides, you may find it. This is 3/5. So our M is equal to 3/5. I know something's off. So here should be 3. Okay, so I have a 5 equals to 9 plus B. And then next is we subtract 9 on both sides. We have a B equals to -4. So look, our y-intercept is not -5, it's -4. It's really important that you plug into the number and then find the intercept instead of just look at it here. Because you know I hand draw this graph, so could be not accurate. But if I draw it from a computer, which will happen on your quizzes and exams, I'm not going to hand draw the graph on your quiz and exam, then you'll have a more accurate graph. But in here, we find out B equals to -4 and the slope equals 3/5. So y equals to 3/5 x minus 4. So that's the graph. Okay, again, the other way to find it is they've given you the table. So here is the table, like so giving a table, and I want you to find the linear equation. So you can use any given pair because you know that, hey, the top represent input, the bottom represent the output. So everyone is order pair. You can choose whatever pair that you like. For me, I'm just randomly choose these two. So I have a 0 and a 1000. And then the second pair is 1160. And now I want to calculate the slope. Again, 1 is x1, f of x1, x2, f of x2. Okay, so we substitute in, we have m equals to the changing in y over the changing in x. So the changing in y, I have 1160 minus 1000 over 4 minus 0. So I have 160 over 4. So the slope is equals to 40. And then we need to plug in one order pair into the linear function y equals to mx plus b to figure out what will be the b is, the x-intercept. Okay, so y equals to 1000, m equals to 40, x equals to 0 plus b. So b is equal to 1000. So combine these two, b equals to 1000, m equals to 40. We have our linear equation, y equals to 40x plus 1000. Okay, you may notice the intercept right away, because what is intercept? So intercept is x and y-intercept is when the graph intersect with y-axis, right? When you intersect y-axis, what's special about the x-coordinate? So the x-coordinate is always 0, right? Whatever that, I should use b, whatever that intercept is, right? So here, I already have an order pair 0 and 1000. That means when x equals to 0, the y-coordinate is going to be the y-intercept. So maybe you don't even need to calculate. You will see, hey, this is our y-intercept. Okay, so the next one is going to be giving you a application problem, which since this is business calc, we're going to use that a lot. Let me show you an example. So here's the example. So working as an insurance salesperson, Eli earns a base salary and a commission on each new policy. And so Eli's weekly income, I, depends on the number of new policy and he sells during the week. Last week, he sold 3 new policy and earned 760 for the week. The week before, he sold 5 new policies and earned 920. Find the equation for his income, depends on the policy that he sold, and interpret the meaning of the component of the equation. So now let's try it. So we know that, okay, last week he sold 3 new policy and earned 760. That's one order pair. The second order pair is the week before last week, he sold 5 policy and earned 920 of that. So let's try to find out our slope on here. So m is equals to change in y over the change in x, which is 920 minus 760 over 5 minus 3. So I have 160 over 2, m is equals to 80. Now the next step is we need to find the y-intercept. So y-intercept is, again, you need to pick one of the number and substitute in it to find the y-intercept. I shouldn't use y and x since the graph, they specifically tell you that, hey, this is change in I over the change in n. This is n, which is number of policy that he sold, and I is the income that he earned based on the policy that he sold. Okay, so now we still need to find the I-intercept, no longer y-intercept. Remember, it's just the letters. You can use different letters that you like. So I have, let me plug in, let me write this down first. I equals to m times n plus b. M is the slope, b is the intercept. So since we just found the slope equals to 80. Okay, so which one do you want to plug in? Let's plug in the first one. It looks easier for me. So I equals to 760. 760 equals to 80 times n, 3 policies plus b. And then you solve for b. So 18 times 3 equals to 240, and you subtract 240 on both sides. So I got b equals to 520. So the equation is equals to what? The income equals to 80m plus 520. So now we need to explain what does this mean. Okay, so what does this mean? We have our I-intercept or y-intercept if you're more familiar with that. So what's I-intercept? That means when n equals to 0, that's how much you earn, right? When n equals to 0, that means if you didn't sell any policy, if n equals to 0, I equals to 520, right? That means if you don't sell any policy, you will still earn 520. That means what in the real world, business world? That means, say it loud, I know you got it. That means this is your base salary, or not his base salary, the base salary, the weekly base salary, because his commission is counted based on weekly base, is 520. Okay, so what does 18 means? So 18 is the constant change. That means if you sell one policy, you will earn 80 bucks, right? If you sell 2 policy, you will earn 80 bucks. So that means 80 is the commission that he earns. He earns an additional $18 commission for each policy sold each week. Okay, that's how you interpret it. Okay, let me know if you have more questions.